friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're here with another video in the series 30 Reviews in 30 Days. Today we're going to be talking about the novel Monster in the Middle by Tiphanie Yanique. Tiphanie Yanique is of Caribbean descent. I think she grew up in the Virgin Islands. She now lives in the United States and she is a professor. A little bit of that is painted onto one of the characters, but this is not strictly a Caribbean novel. I may have been expecting a little bit more Caribbean, especially in the first part of this book. But this is expansive. It is more about a family. It's more about generations. It's more about how the village that raises us impacts us. And how those two villages, when they are married, in that two people from such different, such diverse backgrounds come together and they bring all of that history with them, how that impacts the relationship. So this is, I guess it's leading up to be a love story, but not specifically about two people, but more about the peoples that they are from. So we're reading about two characters. One is a man who's called Fly, and one is a woman called Stella. And for neither of them, that is their complete given name. Stella is a bit of an abbreviation of her given name, but Fly is a name that this man has taken onto himself. And so just in that naming, we see a little bit of people choosing an identity that's not completely based on their parents, not completely based on the identity that was given to them, but making choices, trying to be individuals even as they are almost immersed in the sea of ancestry. This is about families. This is about generations. This is kind of traveling through the history of the last 30 plus years and giving us a little bit of a micrograph of how people, how individuals are affected by all these things that have been happening around them. So we first meet Fly's family. We meet his father and the girlfriend that he had is a black man traveling across the United States. Ugh. I am outside and there are mosquitoes, so forgive me for that. So yeah, we meet Fly's father and his first girlfriend, a white woman, and we're seeing them traveling across the country, seeing a little bit of the experience of an interracial couple and the different reception that these two people may have had as they are traversing this country during a period of racism and segregation. And so the author kind of starts the story with looking at the United States, looking at some of the things that are wrong and some of the ways that people choose to navigate through that or escape it. And so we see Fly's father and his girlfriend having some religious visions, and it's the thing that's supposed to unite them, but it's also the thing that drives them apart. And so we see a little bit of that coming through as like a theme, how it is being navigated by these two people, the religious identity and what it says about their environment, what it says about the people that they encounter and how they treat them and so on. But it's not about Fly. So we see a little bit of Fly's mother's story told from her perspective, some of what she chooses to say about herself, and then confessing that things are not necessarily how she may try to portray them, giving us a little bit of her invention of her own self. And so we go through the story of Fly's parents, and then we meet Fly and have his coming of age story, and then we meet Stella's family and then get a little bit of Stella's coming of age story, some of the relationships that Fly and Stella have before they meet each other, long before we get the story of Fly and Stella together in New York City as the synopsis promises. So, that's kind of my quibble about book synopses, that they give a lot of what is supposed to happen, and it may take a long time to get to that place. And so it is kind of, here's what's going to happen later down if you want to read towards that. But if you want the experience of not knowing what's about to come, reading a book synopsis might not be for you. I definitely don't do that often. I try to avoid looking at the synopsis before I get into the book, especially for the first 100 pages or so. So I like this book. I like what the author intended to do. I like how she gives the story of how families exist, how they're different, how they're the same. What of a family invades a person? What part of the identity can they choose to shrug off, and what kind of survives, even maybe despite their best efforts to shrug them off? So I like that as a theme. I love exploring generational issues and generational curses. I love reading about that. I love how the author takes this family, especially Stella's family, and shows, maybe some of the dreams that they had for her, and how she tries to forge her own way, how she moves across the world. I like the idea of the immigrant not just going to the United States, but going elsewhere, going to Africa. Some of the choices that are available to her, and the decisions that she makes, the things that she says yes to, and also her whys, her motives. What I don't like about the broad expansiveness of this book is that I feel like it gives us so much about the others, the other relationships, the other people, that it becomes a little bit of a distraction. It becomes a little hard to get invested in Fly and Stella's story, just because they've had all these other experiences that you may have gotten a little bit invested in as you were reading towards it. So we don't get Fly and Stella meeting until maybe the last 40 or so pages. For a long, not even that. So the book ends at page 260 something, and we don't have Fly and Stella meeting until about 233. So we have about 30 pages of Fly and Stella actually in New York City. And I do like that this is a current day book, because we're seeing Fly and Stella in New York in present day, during, at least in the early stages of the pandemic, and navigating through that whole uncertainty. But I like this book. I like what the author intends to do. I like what she does in a lot of ways, in that she gives us this 30-year history as it is lived by people. I'm not so sure how I feel about reading about two previous quote-unquote love stories that a person is involved in before I get to the thing that's supposed to be their great love. I know that we are informed by all the things that have happened before us, but it's a little difficult to fall in love with all the newness when someone has been so broken by previous relationships, is what I'm trying to say. But I find it interesting. I'm actually pretty intrigued by how the author did that. A couple of things that I didn't like. I didn't like something that she does with her storytelling, in that she writes in a kind of enigmatic way. When we're introduced to something, we get, like, we're pushed into the middle of the introduction without actually knowing who this person is. So, like, she's telling us about Stella's best friend, and without knowing who this person is, male or female, she calls this person by a nickname, an abbreviation of their name. She calls this person Toy. And when I first read it, I was taken out of the story because I didn't know who Toy was. I didn't know I didn't know who Toy was. I didn't know anything about Toy. And a couple of paragraphs later, she explains. But that explanation comes so late, because I've already spent like a few minutes just kind of going back, perusing the pages or perusing my mind, trying to think, whose toy? What did I miss? Did I skip over something? Kind of going back. So I don't always like that, even though it can be interesting sometimes. That's one of the things that I probably would change about this book. The other thing is that I think I would kind of tighten up the narrative in that maybe I wouldn't spend so much time with these people who are not going to be the great loves. Like if this later relationship is supposed to be the great relationship, I want more of it. I want more of the good stuff in that relationship rather than give me all the good in previous times, all the newness in previous times, and then it's like I'm only getting the remnants in this new thing that's supposed to be love. Like I completely am here for second chances at love, or third chances at love, or 25th chances at love. But I want there to be something special still left for this time. So, I like this book. I like how the author took all these different members of the family and gave us all these stories. I like her look at religion and how religion is something to escape, but also the means for escape. I like how she has these characters who explore religion in so many different ways, and also shows people for who religion doesn't give them anything. Religion is just like a mantle or a facade that they can hide behind. Throughout the book, there's one thing that I did have a quibble about, and that is how much sex is included in this narrative. In the story of Fly, we get a lot of description of pornography and masturbation that it's not interesting for me. Like, sex is good, it's necessary, it is life, but I felt like the author included a little bit too much of that, to the point that it was distraction, and I didn't feel like it added anything to the story. Later, when we get to Stella's story, there is again a lot of focus on sex and sexual activity and how people use sex for different things. We see an encounter with abuse, and we also see how people use sex, trying to use that to mask a lack of intimacy. And so I see why she may have included some of the sex scenes, but I felt like it was a little bit too much. Reading about all the sex, all the pornography and the masturbation, that really did nothing for me. In fact, I felt like it was a little bit extraneous. It felt like a distraction. And that's one of the things that I would take out of this book if I was editing it. Not that I'll take out all of the sex, because I could see how it might be necessary in some places, but it was just a little bit too much for me. I like some of the themes that she explores in this book, and I'm hoping that the things that I didn't love will be changed so that when this book is released in October, I can say, man, I love this, go pick it up. So for now, this is my review of the arc. I will come back and update my thoughts after I've read the final version. But for now, this is my review of Monster in the Middle by Tiphanie Yanique. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let's chat in the comments. I'll be back maybe tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, with another review for this series, 30 Reviews in 30 Days. I hope you'll join me for it. Let's chat in the comments. If you've read anything else by this author, she is the author of Land of Love and Drowning, another novel. She also has a story collection called How to Escape from a Leper Colony, and a poetry collection entitled Wife. I haven't read any of those. This is my first book that I'm reading from this author. So if you have an experience with her writing, I'd love to chat with you in the comments. Or if I said something in this video that makes you want to pick up this book, would love to chat with you about that as well. So thank you so much for watching. Let's chat in the comments. And until next time, until we come back for another video, happy reading. Bye.